right time and in the right way. You have to be original, sympathetic, encouraging, and also keep an open mind. And you really do just need to sit back and listen.
Catty Kay meets with visionaries of arts and culture to find out what sparks their creativity.
Influential with me, Catty Kay. Watch on BBC News.
I kind of didn't really get why people were so freaked out by what I was doing, but I also liked it. I understood even then it was just clothes. It's just makeup and clothes. Why do you care?
Ritual and living tradition are really significant here in Bulgaria, and that's important because we don't need all of this, but somehow it matters.
Subtitles have become something that is not a barrier, and I think that to me has been such an amazing gift. Even when I was writing it, it wasn't clear if people would want to watch a movie that is properly bilingual.
People think, you play music, they dance. That's not true. You see people, their movement, how they dance. You respond to that.
We underestimate our need to be in spaces where we celebrate life. And it's so important that working class kids can get access to that.
Inspiring arts and culture on BBC News. Now on BBC News, Hard Talk asks tough questions in interviews with people who are shaping the news.
Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Stephen Sacker. For almost 3 decades, these studios have been the place where we at Hard Talk have sought to hold those with power and influence in our world to account. It's journalism that has mattered to us, and we hope it's mattered to you too. But at the end of this month, Hard Talk is coming to an end. So we're taking this opportunity to look back at some of the encounters and moments that have encapsulated our commitment to rigorous, forensically researched interviews with people in power. There's been heat, of course, but plenty of light too.
Sobre todo el periodista inglés de la BBC de Londres, muy bueno y duro. Tiene un programa que se llama Diálogo Duro. A mí me gustan más esos periodistas duros así, como los pitchers así duros. Mejor porque sale la línea más fuerte. Nos dimos duro.
You say it's possible to have some form of capitalism within a socialist system. Is it possible to have genuine democracy and genuine respect for the rule of law within your socialism?
Te voy a decir algo. Hace 11 años yo llegué aquí y yo era un iluso que llegué incluso a creer en la tercera vía. Es una farsa. Yo pensé que era posible articular, ¿no?, un capitalismo a lo renano, un rostro humano del capitalismo. Pero me di cuenta que no, estaba equivocado. En el capitalismo es imposible la democracia. El capitalismo es el reino de la injusticia y la tiranía de los más ricos contra los más pobres. Ya lo decía Rousseau, entre el poderoso y el débil la libertad oprime, solo la ley libera. Por eso el único camino para salvar al mundo es el socialismo, un socialismo en democracia. Aquí no hay dictadura. Yo he sido electo aquí 3 veces.
Mr. President, there are many different international groups, Latin American groups, who've questioned your commitment to the rule of law. When Human Rights Watch wrote a report about this very subject, you threw out the 2 people who wrote the report. So it seems that whenever people are critical of your record, you do not accept it.
Yo, en primer lugar, respeto cualquier opinión de cualquier persona o cualquier institución en el mundo. Pero tengo el mismo derecho de replicar cuando creo que están mintiendo o que están hablando la verdad a medias o que se sustentan en mentiras para hacer acusaciones permanentes contra Venezuela. Yo quisiera ver los informes de derechos humanos en relación con el gobierno de Estados Unidos, que bombardea ciudades, que mata niños.
Inevitably, some recurring themes have emerged in our interviews with leaders from around the world. Respect, or lack of it, for human rights and the rule of law, integrity and honesty in government. I've had the privilege of asking the kind of questions which citizens want answered, but which journalists in many countries are under enormous pressure not to ask.
There is an authoritarian tendency in Sri Lanka.
No.
Is it justifiable, for example...
No, see, this is very unfair to use these words. No, it's very unfair. We have a democratically elected president. We have a democratically elected government.
But you don't, for example, have a free press, do you?
I don't know why people are harping on these things.
Well, I'll tell you why, because internationally there is great concern that journalists who write perhaps critical pieces about your government end up in serious trouble, and some of them end up dead, as you well know.
These are LTT,
and some of them end up dead, as you well know.
These are LTT propaganda. These are propaganda by the people who are against the government. So the international community
it's not. No, forgive me. It's not propaganda that Lasantha Wickrematunge, for example, the editor of the Sunday Leader, was assassinated on the streets of the capital. That's not propaganda.
No, read the papers, read the daily papers, read the weekend papers.
Well, I've read all of the papers.
How many tabloids criticizing the government, criticizing the... not criticizing is fine, but how many bogus reports, how many mudslinging, you know...
But hang on a minute. When Mr. Wickrematunge wrote his valedictory piece, he foretold his own death. He wrote this, he said, and this is just days before he was shot dead on the streets of Colombo, "Murder," he said, "has become the primary tool whereby the state seeks to control the organs of liberty."
Don't go by these people who are writing against... You know, there are enough people...
He's not writing anymore, he's dead. I need to ask you a personal question. Are you worried that you personally may be accused of war crimes?
No, I'm not worried because I have not done any crime.
You see, as you know, that is not...
Is fighting terrorism a crime? Is fighting terrorism a crime?
Depends how you fight it.
Yeah.
Depends what you do.
There is only way to fight terrorism. Fight.
No, but
I don't see that there is any...
If you believe you're involved in a war on terror, it would not allow you, for example, to give an order to one of your senior officers telling him to shoot people who are trying to surrender waving a white flag.
No, I have never
That would still be a war crime.
Nobody had done that. Nobody had
Well, you know that the army commander at the end of the war has since given interviews in which he says he has information that you gave an army commander the instruction to shoot.
Don't grab these political issues. You know who he is. He contested for his personal gains. So don't drag him into this.
But this is General Fonseca who says he has information that you gave the order.
That is a political. That's a political game.
Well, that's what I want to pursue now. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that. You keep saying it's a political game. Is the fact that General Fonseca is now in detention?
He's lying.
Is in detention. He faces court-martial. Is that because he, in essence, accused you of a war crime, and he also said he would be prepared to...
That is one point.
And he also said... Hang on. He also...
That is one point.
He also said he would testify before an independent war crimes investigation. Is that what you are frightened of?
Yes, it is that one point. He can't do that. He was the commander. He's responsible. That's a treason. We will hang him if he do that. I'm telling you, that's a treason.
Do you understand, Mr. President, how serious these charges are against you? 7 counts against you: murder, extermination, forcible transfer of population, torture and rape.
كلها أكاذيب طبعا. كلها أكاذيب، والواقع على الأرض يكذب كل هذه الادعاءات. بدليل أنه الناس بيدعى أنهم تعرضوا من الحكومة لهذه الأعمال لما طلعوا من مناطق القتال. وأي مواطن قطعا شيء طبيعي جدا لما يحصل قتال في منطقة المواطنين بينزحوا، وكل المواطنين نزحوا إلى المناطق اللي فيها الحكومة، فيها القوات المسلحة، في الشرطة بحثا عن الأمن والطمأنينة، ووجدوا الحماية حقيقة من الحكومة. فكيف الحكومة هي اللي بتقوم بكل هذه الجرائم والمواطن يهرب من مناطق ارتكاب الجريمة للمرتكب الجريمة شخصيا؟
How many people do you think have died in Darfur? The United Nations, John Holmes, the humanitarian coordinator, says up to 300,000. He says that's an extrapolation. What is your figure?
نحن بنقول أنه دي أرقام خيالية لا وجود لها على الواقع. أنا زي ما قلت كل الأحداث في دارفور.
But how do you know, Mr. President, how many have died? You're saying it's an exaggeration.
نعم.
Do you know how many have died?
نعم. إحنا أي حدث بيحصل في دارفور بيحصل له ريبورت. إذا حصل صراع بين مواطنين، إحنا في دولة موجودة هناك، في مؤسسات دولة موجودة بترعى الحكاية دي، فأي صراع لو كان بين القوات المسلحة ولا المتمردين بتجي النتيجة بتاعته.
Do you regret that? Do you regret those 10,000?
نحن ما بنقبل الخسائر في مواطنينا، إحنا طرحنا السلام، إحنا اللي عملنا مبادرة السلام، إحنا اللي وقعنا اتفاقية السلام، لكن لا زال في منظمات وحركات مدعومة من الغرب بتعمل سلاح ضد الدولة. فأي تدينا دولة واحدة في العالم أنه في متمردين حملوا السلاح وقالت والله ده حقكم والدولة ما حتقاتلكم.
You could, as the Sudanese government, simply declare a unilateral ceasefire in Darfur so the killing could stop largely. UNAMID says we can monitor the ceasefire. Why don't you do that? Have a unilateral ceasefire.
أول حاجة نحن بنقول في تمرد ضد الدولة حنظلنا قاتله، لأن التمرد متحرك. التمرد رفض وقف إطلاق النار. نحن كدولة من واجبنا أن نحمي البلد، نحمي المواطنين بتاعنا. إذا الطرف الآخر رافض السلام نحن مفروض علينا نقاتل.
So the violence continues. The peace process is going nowhere.
مين الملام؟
Hard Talk hasn't just spoken to those in power, it's also interviewed those seeking to challenge power. In many countries, political protest, dissent, opposition carries with it great risk. And courage is a quality that I've encountered many times over the years. Back in 2017, I spoke to Alexei Navalny, one of the few prominent Russians ready to make a stand against President Vladimir Putin. The anti-corruption campaigner and opposition leader was targeted for assassination in 2020. He miraculously survived nerve agent poisoning. After recovering in Germany, he returned to Russia, knowing he was a marked man. He was convicted of financial crimes and imprisoned in the harshest of conditions. He died in prison in February 2024. You know that you are treading a very fine line, and if you go 1 inch too far, you'll end up in prison or who knows.
I definitely don't draw this line for myself. I just do what I can do in this particular moment, and I don't care about what Kremlin is doing, what their strategy about keeping me in prison or releasing me. Maybe you know that I had actually a moment when they imprisoned me for 5 years, and I spent the night in the prison knowing nothing about what's going on in Moscow, where tens of thousands of people came in the street and they forced actually Vladimir Putin to release me. And about, you know, this discussion, you have your moment and now your moment is gone. These people who came in the street, they are not gone. They're still living in the city. They're still living in the country. And
let me stop you there.
Right.
Are you absolutely determined? You talk about your run for the presidency. You're determined, come what may, to challenge Vladimir Putin in the election, which we believe will come in 2018. You are going to run, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to run. And, well, I'm not a naive person. I understand that Kremlin is very unhappy with me running. And I understand that they will do everything to prevent me from running. And recently, several Kremlin's officials said that he's not allowed to participate. But still, I'm going to appeal to the people and ask for them support.
I mean, in this office where we speak, you've already got your logos organized, Navalny 2018. But I put it to you that if you lose this court case in Kirov, based on accusations of embezzlement and fraud, you will be barred from running. And whatever you tell me about your determination,
it doesn't nothing in the current country. Well, as I said, they imprisoned me for 5 years and they released me on the next day. So what kind of law? The same with my participation in mayor election. It was almost impossible to participate, but when people came in the street and said, we are not going to recognize this election without him participating.
So you think you can use people power against Putin?
Actually, it's only tool I can do. It's only I have.
But
people support.
Mr. Navalny, I'm tempted to say to you, get real. You know what happened to Khodorkovsky. You know what happened to Kasparov, who's now in exile. You know what happened to Boris Nemtsov.
To get real? I am real. I can assure you that I'm real, and I have my brother spending his time in jail. He's took away from his family, and as you mentioned, he's in solitary confinement. And they are really torturing him every time when I'm issuing new investigation. So I'm a guy from the real life here in Russia, and I understand everything. And I do believe that people's support can prevail the strategy, what kind of strategy Putin has against me.
At Hard Talk, we've strived to maintain a reputation for independent, impartial interviewing. And that's why people have been prepared to talk to us across the deepest divides. I just spoke to Alexei Navalny, perhaps the leading voice in opposition to President Putin in this country today, a man who has declared he wants to run in the presidential election slated for 2018 against Putin. He said to me, you know why Putin fights these wars, why he is projecting Russia's power in different arenas around the world? He is trying to distract the Russian people from what is going on inside their own country. The millions and millions condemned to live in poverty. The systemic corruption, which is seeing a tiny elite at the top enriching themselves on the back of the majority of Russians who see no growth, no prosperity. That's what he's going to campaign on, and that is going to cause you and your boss a great deal of trouble.
Well, you know, unfortunately, we have a very weak opposition in our country.
I wonder why that is. Could it be because they're not allowed access to state television, for example?
No, it's not about state television. Well, you have modern media. You have modern media, and viewership of television is diminishing day by day.
In Russia today, if you switch on the TV and you want to find an opposition voice, it is almost impossible.
American president is winning elections using Twitter. In order to be a successful opposition, you have to be sustainable. You have to have a program of development of the country.
You also have to be allowed a semblance of freedom. You have to be a person who is not at risk of being assassinated, as Boris Nemtsov was, just 100 meters from the Kremlin. You have to be a guy, unlike Alexei Navalny, who finds his brother is locked up on trumped-up charges and he himself is facing more trumped-up charges. You need a space, a freedom to operate and build a political movement. In Russia today, you know as well as I do, that's impossible.
Why don't you think that there are not fair charges?
Because the European Court of Human Rights is impossible.
Why don't you think that there are not fair charges?
Because the European Court of Human Rights has declared that they are political, and it said that they were illegitimate.
We don't agree with that. We don't agree with that.
You don't agree with the European Court of Human Rights when they analyzed all of the evidence?
I'd rather trust our own court. And we do have much more confidence in our own court system.
Do you read Alexei Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation website?
Once in a while, yes.
You'd have seen your own name up there recently.
Yeah, most frequently.
Yeah, he wants to know how come a guy like you, a public servant on a, not bad but modest salary, how you live in a villa, which he's very pleased to show me, which is worth, he says, because he's spoken to the realtors, $15 million. And of course, the very famous watch of yours, which was worth £400,000.
Try to double check it with different real estate agencies. Try to double check that.
Do you want to tell me how much your villa is worth? I'm very happy to take your estimate.
If we're here to discuss the cost of my villa, I hope it's quite expensive.
Hard Talk has travelled the world in pursuit of interviews that matter. It's taken us to dictatorships, to one-party states, war zones and disputed territories. But wherever we've set up our cameras, whether in a land where independent journalism is welcome or unwelcome, we've adopted the same impartial, rigorous approach. Whether in London or Washington, Caracas or Moscow, the job has been to hold power to account.
Now, the leader of your party, the Conservative Party, David Cameron, is trying to take a grip, at least as far as he can, on his own party. He's told his shadow cabinet that they must abandon all their outside activities, their second jobs, by the end of the year. Now, you are the Mayor of London. I checked this morning. I believe your salary is just short of £140,000. You have a massive job. You've just told me how dizzyingly exciting and challenging it is. And yet, you have a contract.
Yeah, I do.
With a national newspaper worth £250,000 a year.
Chicken feed, yeah, okay.
Chicken feed.
No, listen, let's be.
Do you think most people in London will regard it as chicken feed, particularly at a time of economic recession? That you're earning £250,000 on the side as a newspaper.
Well, I don't presume to ask what you earn from the taxpayer, and I think that, frankly, there's absolutely no reason at all why I should not, on a Sunday morning, before I, do whatever else I need to do on a Sunday morning, should not knock off an article as a way of relaxation, a kind of mental. Why shouldn't I? I mean, do you really see a reason why I shouldn't? I think it's.
I'm just looking at your party leader, who has sent a signal to all of his senior people saying you can't have these outside activities. If the public are to believe that we are truly committed to serving their purposes, we have to be fully focused on the job at hand. I'm wondering, when you're getting £250,000 a year from somebody else for writing, whether you're really fully focused on your job as mayor.
Well, as I say, I see absolutely no reason why I should not, do what I write anyway. I happen to write extremely fast. I don't see why on a Sunday morning I shouldn't knock off an article. If someone wants to pay me for that article, then that's their lookout. And of course, I make a substantial donation to charity from it. Maybe that money should not go to charity. Maybe you'd rather I didn't make those contributions to charity.
You were at the centre of the storm on January 6, 2021, when the Capitol was invaded by a rioting mob. They invaded your office.
Yeah.
People have since been prosecuted, convicted, and imprisoned for what they did. You said at the time, it was caught on camera, you didn't know it was being filmed, but you said at the time all this was unfolding and you'd been forced to flee, you said about the prospect of Trump coming to the Capitol, I hope he comes, I want to punch him out. This is the moment, I've been waiting for it. I want to punch him out, I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to be happy.
That's right. I said that, I didn't realize that would be broadcast or went out there, but yeah.
I understand the level of your anger, but doesn't that suggest that you, in a sense, were drawn into this toxic political culture, which many Americans right now could lead to further political violence?
Nobody gets any equation or equivalence to my saying I want to punch him out, which I've wanted to do for a long time, but now he gave me more reason to what is happening at the Capitol. So don't try to put any
I'm not suggesting that equivalence. All I'm saying is that your anger, your fury, your sense that this was undermining America's democratic system has its own feedback loop, and that right now American
but we're on the right track. We are honoring our oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now, the Constitution of the United States on that day said that the peaceful transfer of power would be that Congress would accept the Electoral College vote. That is why they were there that day, to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power. Yeah, my oath of office said I have to defend that.
There are many Americans, again according to the polls, who think Joe Biden should not run again because he's simply too old.
But it's 3 years older than what's his name, your friend.
Old.
But it's 3 years older than what's his name, your friend. He's 3 years older than he is.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a big deal.
I don't wish
to be ungallant, but you are 82, and you have handed over power in the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives to what you called a new generation.
That's right.
Should Joe Biden be learning from you?
No, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. If we said we have a great president, he's accomplished more.
People see Joe Biden's mental and physical health. They see it every day on their TV screens. They are drawing conclusions. A clear majority say he is too old, he should not run again. And that's Democrats as well as Republicans.
And if you ask those Democrats, they support Joe Biden. They're not supporting somebody else because Joe Biden is old. Joe Biden is wise. He has knowledge. He has a beautiful vision for America. He has knowledge of the issues, therefore judgment and wisdom. He has strategic thinking about getting things done. That's why his presidency has been so successful on the domestic front. He has empathy and cares about working class families, and we have to communicate that better to the American people, and that is what a campaign is about. I didn't hear you say any complimentary thing about anything that people have said about the president or our performance as elected officials. We don't care about the negative. We're about the positive. It's not about fear. It's about hope. And you'll see, 15 months from now, Joe Biden reelected as president of the United States with great pride.
As you say, we'll see. It has been a pleasure and a privilege for us on Hard Talk to be able to bring you 3 decades of interviews with global leaders. I hope we've shown that accountability matters, maybe now more than ever. Thanks for watching.
What is going on?
People love how the new Homes.com helps them get quick answers about any property by connecting them to the actual listing agent.
Oh, so I'm done?
Oh, no. We're still not sure everyone knows that we're the only site that always connects you to the listing agent rather than selling off your contact info. So we're gonna keep you up there a little while longer.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting great exposure.
Speaking of exposure, can we get him a hat?
Ooh, what about a beret?
Oh. Ding dong.
Homes.com, we've done your homework.
When our numbers guy Frank goes on vacation,
Go off, Frank. Yes.
the deals on the most affordable German-engineered car brand in America
Perfect.
get even better.
Yeah, it's good.
Just ask our intern.
Okay, and then you're gonna watch me and you're gonna do this. Ready? 3, 4, and we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. Come join me.
Hop in during Volkswagen Deal Days. Get up to a $2,500 customer bonus on select new 2025 models during Volkswagen Deal Days.
Hey, Dad, I have a question for you.
Sure.
When did Granddad first start investing?
Granddad had an account with Schwab before there were branches in the area. He really started with nothing. He worked hard, and after he passed away, the torch has been passed to me, and my advisor, Jennifer, she was with me with the journey, helping with the estate distribution. The 2 grandchildren, planning for their college educations. Someday it'll be their turn.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary obligated to act in your best interests.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a transparent fee, structured so we do better when you do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
When my hair started thinning, I didn't want to hear the wisecracks.
I was ignoring my hair because I was a full-time working mother, but luckily I found Nutrafol.
My hair was getting stronger and thicker.
And I finally feel like myself again.
When a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name, it's a race against time to stop the theft of your hard-earned equity.
Many people don't know this has happened until long after it's done.
You as the homeowner think you still own a house. 3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
So when's the last time you checked on the title to your home? Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
Anna Foster here in Tel Aviv on an important day, a day when the ceasefire has finally come into effect in Gaza.
The verdicts have come in, all guilty, and now the sentences are being read out by the judge in the court behind me.
We've been seeing the fire's destruction. There's power lines down. Smoke is so thick we can barely see more than a few meters in front of us.
People are celebrating in the central Umayyad Square. Civilians and rebels, you can hear the sound of celebratory gunfire.
And as ever, in this kind of a crowd, one person gets pushed, and it ended up that people got trampled on.
There, when the story breaks, BBC News.
My dad was a farmer, but he also had a radio talk show for farmers who called in with their farming problems.